All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dakoba, and welcome back to World of Warcraft. Today, we're going to be taking a look at another one-button sequence. This one is for Protection Paladin, and this one is for the Gnome Sequencer Enhanced add-on. Now, I know that the one-button sequences are coming to WoW soon. It looks like those are going to be a great option if you don't want to use add-ons, but if you're looking to elevate your gameplay but still have that ease of use, Gnome Sequencer Enhanced is the way to do it. Now, how GSE works is once it's installed, you can type /GSE to pull up the menu, which will allow you to define a sequence. Today we're going to be taking a look at a prot paladin sequence by a creator named Oak. I'll post a link to all of his stuff down below. He's a fantastic creator, and I highly recommend you check it out. And what this sequence is, if we take a closer look at it, is a series of spells that happen. And so each time you hit a key, it fires off a macro block, and then that key rebinds to the next one in sequence. So the first time you hit it, it'll hit the first block, the next time it'll hit the next block, and so on down the list. Now, if you hit this key rapidly enough, this can effectively emulate doing an entire complex rotation, all by hitting one key over and over and over again. And that is what we are going to be doing today. Now, in order to create the sequence, you'll need to take the sequence string, and again, I'll post a link to this down below, and then go into the Gnome Sequencer menu and click on the import button. From there, you'll paste the sequence inside the menu and click import, and you can see that this one is for Oak's Prot Pal. Since I already know it, if I hit import on that, it'll give me a message about updating. We'll just go ahead and cancel that because we already have it. Now, one of the cool things about this one is that it is very flexible with your talents, and what I'm using right now are the Wowhead Delve talents. I'll post a link to those as well, but I have used this sequence in keys and in raids, and it works really well, so I highly recommend it. All right, now in order to use this sequence, you'll need to then go into your key bindings tab, which is located further down on the menu, and then inside key bindings, there are action bar overrides and key bindings. Action bar overrides allow you to bind the sequence to a key on your action bar, but I'm going to set a dedicated keybind for it. So we'll select key bindings, select new key, and then choose which key we want. I'm going to go ahead and use left square bracket for this, and then I will select the sequence I want. In this case, we're doing Oak Prot Paladin there. And then we'll go ahead and hit save. We'll see that that has been added under the protection heading of my key bindings. And now all I need to do is come on up and start spamming the key, and it will start working through my entire sequence and using all of my cooldowns, using all of my buttons and all of my rotations. And this isn't going to be as good as playing the class sort of normally and making a decision about which keys to press at any given moment. However, it allows you to focus on what else is going on in the fight. It allows you to watch your positioning. It allows you to pay attention to priority targets. It allows you to manage your interrupts and CCs and things like that. And that's the real power of this. It's also great if you have a disability or something else that limits your ability to play with the huge number of key bindings that are sort of demanded by modern WoW. Now you can see we're doing a pretty good job on this. We're actually bursting for a decent amount of damage, 3 million right there, and we're not particularly geared, only 653, and a lot of that gear is actually coming from the Void Touched shield that we got from a 5-mask horrific vision using this very sequence, which we'll be showing here in a little bit for a demo. But that is the big idea. That's how the sequence works and how you set it up. And so once that's done, you can take this into content and play with it. Now these are really great for leveling. They're really great for low to mid-level content, and occasionally if you find a sequence that works well for you, you can push into high keys. I have a bear sequence that I wrote myself that I use, and I'm pushing 13 and 14 keys, and they are fantastic. So let's pop on over into a horrific vision and take a look and see how this does in a fight. All right, so heading into the horrific vision, you can see that when I did this horrific vision, I didn't actually have that Void Touch shield yet. Again, that was a reward for this run. So I'm still using a Auction House 603 shield there, and that wasn't great. And just working through the dungeon, managed to see that the purple liquid is the bad poison, which means the black liquid is the good poison. And you can see that as we pull, we are just moving through stuff. We do have the DPS construct of Ciri Dormi helping us out, and that is going pretty well for us. And one of the big challenges that we run into with this kind of sequence on a paladin, and particularly on an under-geared paladin, is that we struggle with DPS sometimes. We don't necessarily optimize for DPS, since we're usually trying to play a more balanced playstyle that balances DPS and survival. But in this case, Oak has written a really solid sequence. It works well. You can see we're doing some reasonably big pulls here without any sort of danger to our character or to ourselves. And the only trick with this particular prop paladin sequence is that holding control activates your heals. So if you have a target selected, then it will either cast your intercession, your combat res on them if they are dead. If they're not dead, it'll cast Word of Glory on them. And if you don't have a friendly target selected, it will heal you instead. So you can simply hold down control to do that. And otherwise, you are mostly on your own for managing your own defensive cooldowns. But some of your more minor cooldowns, things like your Wings or your Tears Deliverance or your Divine Toll, are going to be integrated into the sequence. And ultimately, it just creates a really nice balanced playthrough. Let's go ahead and jump ahead. Now, there were a couple of tricky points we ran into. Let's see if we can find one of these. Yes, so here in the Mage District. Now, again, this is a Vision of Stormwind. It's 5 masks, and in particular, I don't have the easy masks. So the 2 of the masks I'm using are the one that reduces your maximum sanity by half, which is probably the hardest mask in the game. And then I also am using the bolstering one, which makes getting into the Mage District really tricky because of the way the ads spawn. So we did run into some trouble with that pull, just getting overwhelmed by the heavily bolstered ads. And we did have to use to proc our emergency sort of res and revival. Fortunately, it wasn't at the worst time and it didn't stop us from finishing the vision, but I would have loved to have saved that. So that's something that's more on me choosing which masks are right for my gear level. But I used the only 5 masks I have to do the 5 mask run, and it ended up working out, although it was a little touch and go when we first entered into the Mage District. That's actually why I went into the Mage District first, is I know that is probably the hardest pull in the place, and I was concerned about it. But we managed to get through it, and then proceed on. Everything else went pretty smoothly, obviously just making sure we're avoiding the abilities of the various elites and clearing them as we can to restore some sanity. Mostly just playing through and doing things as smoothly as we can. Let's see. The next time that we ran into some trouble was over when we went into Old Town and we were fighting Mattias Shaw, which actually went pretty quickly and pretty smoothly for what it was. Let's see if we can jump ahead to it. Yeah, so while we were fighting Mattias Shaw, and Mattias Shaw is just a DPS check, and that's really, there's nothing about that except that as a undergeared prop paladin, you struggle with DPS checks. You're not a super high damage class, and that meant that we were taking a lot of damage. Fortunately, paladins are very broken. I was able to bubble during the worst of the sort of Dark Gaze phase and avoid the worst of the sanity loss there. And so we actually managed to get through the Mattias Shaw fight without having to activate our emergency sanity restoration. So that went pretty nicely for us. And then we finished up by clearing out the trade district, which, again, if we jump ahead, went pretty smoothly. Again, able to do some big pulls as a prop paladin, not really in any danger at any point because it's just a really strong sequence, and does a really nice job of keeping Shield of the Righteous up, making sure you're always standing in Consecrate, and also peppering in a good number of heals there. So everything went very smoothly through most of the run. The Inquisitor Darkspeak is always tricky because he's just constantly casting and you don't have enough interrupts to deal with that. Even as a prop paladin where you get the Avenger's Shield that can help with those interrupts, some of them are still going to get through. But fortunately, he wasn't really that much of a threat, and we were able to finish things up pretty smoothly there. Let's jump ahead to the final fight, which was probably the most difficult and most dangerous. And so let's go ahead and speed this one up and watch it at double speed. And this one was really tricky because there's so many things that are going on in this phase. And again, it's kind of a DPS check because you've got the eye constantly casting Dark Gaze on you. I did end up using our last Sanity Restoration Orb during this fight in order to sort of top back up. And I don't think we would have survived otherwise. But we slowly worked through Illyria's defenses and made our way through it. And if we jump ahead towards right near the end, it was getting a little close at the end. We lost our construct of Ciri Dormi, and Illyria didn't have very much health left, but the room was full of fire and she kept jumping away from us. And so we just did our best and finally managed to defeat her with just a hair of sanity left, and finish up and get all of the achievements and all of the buffs, all the bonuses, all the loot, and most importantly for me, unlocking that heroic weapon vendor, which meant that I was able to get good weapons for my protection and retribution set. Anyways, I think that is going to do it for today. I hope you guys have found this video to Prot Paladin helpful. Leave a like if you have, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. My name is The Koba, and I hope you have an epic day. I will see you soon.